evening and welcome to Thai PBS World. Even with the best of intentions, the Prayut government for weeks apparently failed to inspire public confidence that it is in charge of the situation as Thailand faces its biggest health crisis brought about by the coronavirus outbreak. Confusing statements and comments from the government's top leaders has triggered a public outcry and cast doubts on whether the political leadership is capable of guiding the country through this most critical time.
ประเทศไทยต้องชนะครับ
Thailand will triumph. If Prime Minister Prayut Chan-o-cha thought this was going to be the most motivational statement that people were hoping for from their top leader in the midst of the coronavirus crisis, he must be disappointed. First, his address to the country on Monday might have come too little too late. And second, people's confidence in his government's handling of the situation might have been so undermined that mere words from the country's top leader did not suffice to calm their anxiety. As Prayut was addressing the country, people still had to queue up to buy face masks and hand sanitizers, despite repeated assurances from him and his cabinet members that there were enough of these much sought-after items to go around. No wonder then that hashtags like Prayut Get Out started trending on Twitter, and harsher feedbacks have also gone viral on the social media. But to be fair, many were triggered by the government's die-hard political opponents who would not react positively to whatever Prayut does or says anyway. But there is no question that communication has always been one of the problems of the Prayut government since it took office in July last year. And the COVID-19 pandemic only puts the weakness under harsh spotlight. In the eyes of communication expert Sakunsi Sisarakham of the Faculty of Communication Arts of Prayut Institute of Management, the Prayut government has obviously underestimated the need to communicate clearly to the public on what it was doing to deal with the pandemic. It was only after emotions started to run high did the government manage to get its house in order and come up with convincing statements to assure the public that it has a handle on the situation. Sakunsi told Thai PBS World that at the onset, the government should have explained to the public the short and longer-term steps it was taking to deal with the situation, backing them up with relevant data. And more importantly, such communication should be done in a concise and clear-cut manner. But in reality, the government did much the opposite, giving the impression that it was underestimating the gravity of the crisis. Even worse, some cabinet members added to the confusions with their own, sometimes contradictory comments. On the contrary, it was the medical authorities of the Public Health Ministry who has won praises for their calm and consistent daily updating of the pandemic. And how the government dealt with the shortage of surgical masks and Thais who return from overseas further eroded public confidence in its ability to control the situation. And it did not help that Public Health Minister Anutin Charnvirakul took to the social media with some information blunders before deleting them, but not before having invited a storm of criticisms. Even worse, when a close aide of a scandal-tainted cabinet member was accused of colluding in the hoarding of surgical masks, the government's credibility plunged even further. It was not until the committee tasked with containing COVID-19, chaired by Prime Minister Prayut, had its first full meeting on Monday, did the government begin to show that it is finally in charge of the situation. And it was Deputy Prime Minister Wisnuk Khreungam who offered the most clear-cut picture to date of what the government was doing to contain the spread of the deadly virus. In a press conference, Wisnuk lived up to his style of explaining things in easily understood layman's language. The package of measures proposed by the COVID-19 committee, which include closing of entertainment places and sports venues, schools and universities, were subsequently approved the next day by the cabinet.
การประกาศวิจารณ์รัฐบาลไม่ยกระดับต่างๆนี้ไม่สะท้อนสถานการณ์ที่แท้จริงเพราะนั้นก็
It was Prime Minister Prayut who took to the podium to explain the orders and directives approved by his cabinet, again in his mumbling and preaching style of communication. The same night, he reappeared on TV Pool to repeat much of what was said earlier in the day. Yes, a leader appearing in charge is always something positive, especially during a critical time. But the Prayut government could have avoided the crisis of confidence had it been more effective with its communication with the public from the start. And that's all for Thai PBS World tonight. Thank you for watching.